Okie dokie, we are live, we are recording, we have sound, we look like we're good to go. Well, welcome everybody, my name is Derek. I want to take a couple minutes to talk to you, maybe more than a couple minutes, but talk to you about our journey into autumn and our experience and how we utilize medicinal mushrooms in terms of why it's important as we transition and go through the season of fall, or any season for that matter. We're going to talk about the lungs, the large intestines, the lymph, and our immune system, and how important that is. Now I'm going to shrink my screen down here so everybody can see the slides as we go through this recording. So the main points I'd like to cover in this talk are the lungs, why the season of autumn, why the season of fall, the large intestine, why the colon, why is that important right now, the lymphatic system, why the lymph, why medicinal mushrooms, and then ideas on how to use medicinal mushrooms as going forward. Now, why is it important to pay honor to or attention to any season throughout the year? Why are these cycles of nature so important? Well, if we look at the ancient philosophies of health, wellness, and illness, if we look back at those old herbal systems, we find snippets throughout time where they're clearly identifying how important this is for the human body and our overall physiology. So if we look at the teachings of Hippocrates, who is dubbed one of the fathers of modern medicine, he says, "It is chiefly the changes of the seasons which produce disease. It is chiefly the changes of the seasons which produce diseases." If we look at teachings from Charaka, who is one of the principal founding fathers of Ayurveda, we find that he says all diseases begin at the junction of the seasons. So in a nutshell, this living in harmony with the seasons and the changes between them could be the root cause of so many health problems, so many diseases that we face in modern day life. So very important to live in harmony with these seasons. Now, how do we do this? Well, we can look at some of these ancient herbal systems and gain knowledge and gain a roadmap for how we can live forward throughout these seasons, these changes in seasons. So if you've ever seen me talk or know anything about me, I'm passionate about Taoist Tonic Herbalism, which is that daily approach to herbalism, right? Taking little bits of substances now consistently to avoid big problems later. Well, if we look at the Taoist practice of tonic herbalism, we find that it is actually one of the most sophisticated and effective herbal systems in the world. It's all about living at its fundamental level, living in harmony with nature and natural substances. So in a nutshell, Taoism is quintessentially how we live in harmony with nature. Now, tonic herbalism differs from other herbal systems where it emphasizes the promotion of health rather than the elimination of diseases. And so, like I said before, it's taking these substances little bits ongoing, consistently, a consistent approach. Actually, I'm going to shrink my screen. I can just see that at the corner of my eye. Shrink it down a little bit more. That consistent approach to take little substances now to avoid big problems later. That's the whole idea. Now, why this is so profound and why this is so exciting to me is this is a time-tested herbal system that's been practiced successfully over 3,000 years. So the amount of time it took to get to this point where it has been time-tested and practiced successfully is astounding, right? This, in my opinion, is the ancient key to how we should be living healthfully as human beings. And one thing to keep in mind is that there's no prevention theory that can compare in terms of effectiveness or the historical track record as tonic herbalism or a lot of these old world ancient herbal philosophies. Modern medicine is great and we've had many advances. Science is amazing. We can utilize those things as tools. But when we look at a preventative approach that is time tested over thousands of years to be effectiveness and safe, we can turn to tonic herbalism for that going forward. Now, at first, it might seem overwhelming on how we live in harmony with the seasons, how we truly live in harmony with nature, but there's something called 5-element theory in tonic herbalism, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. You'll find this in many ancient herbal systems. Basically, this is a comprehensive template that organizes everything in the natural environment, and in this case, 5 elements, Some systems have 6, but it is they're all comprehensive templates that organize things into distinct categories. Now, how I teach the 5-element theory, seasonal attunement, how to live in harmony with nature, instead of actually using the elements, last summer would be fire, things like that, I teach it from a seasonal standpoint, because what I find is the most easily accessible or easily understandable method in our modern day, because we can use the cycle of the seasons going forward that give us a clear identification on what we should be doing, what herbs we should be taking, and how we should be living. So again, this might seem overwhelming at first, but the roadmap, this is the good news, spoiler alert, the roadmap has been figured out for us. We just need to take those teachings and put them into practice as best as we can in modern day life. So when we look at the seasons of the year, we find right now we're in the season of autumn or fall. Now, every season is interconnected, and they bleed in terms of bleed into each other in terms of how they operate. But when we look at the season of autumn, we find that it is the season of the lungs, the large intestine. I do have some bullet points coming up, but that fall-autumn season is all about the skin, mucus, nose, the lymphatic system. That's all about the season of autumn. This is one, in my opinion, actually probably the hardest shift in our local area. If you're located, at least in Western Canada, but I would say anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, this shift into autumn from late summer and before winter, I always find is the most difficult and causes the most dis-ease symptoms of the majority of people out there. So I find this is the hardest shift. I find the next hardest shift, for a side note, is when we come out of winter, come back into spring. This whole bottom piece here is quite a radical shift. This is something that you need to be taking in consideration as we move forward. Now, what does it mean when it's an organ season? It is the time of the year that we can heal, repair, and rebuild that organ system for the next 12 months ahead. Now, every organ system has something that it stands for in terms of our physiology, which we'll get into in a second. But this is the time, if you have any existing lung issues, large intestine issues, lymphatic issues, this is the time of year we really need to pay attention to this. Again, spoiler alert, the season of autumn, or the lung season, is all about the immune system. This is our immune system season. We need to take specific care and focus at this time of year on our immune system so that we can live healthfully moving forward for the next 12 months ahead. Doesn't mean any other time of the year you can't focus on the immune system or the lungs for that matter, but the time is now to repair, rebuild, and rebalance, fortify our immune system going forward for the next year ahead. So we got to act now. Now, the season of autumn, like I said before, is about the lungs, then the large intestine. So even though we call it lung season, or any of my teachings that I've been doing now for the last decade, we call it lung season, but we can't forget about its paired organs, which is the large intestine. Now, for the sake of time, for the sake of this recording, we're not going to get too deep into this, but everything in Chinese medicine, Taoist Tonic Herbalism, any sort of herbal system, organs will have a paired or a shared organ system, or function rather, where we find that everything in the body is holistic and interconnected. So the lungs and large intestine, this is their time of year where they want to repair, rebuild, and rebalance. So we can see that this is related to the nose, the sense of smell, skin. So we'll see a lot of skin issues come up at this time of year, the mucous membranes in general, and the lymphatic system. This is a big one and very important, which we'll talk about in a second here. Some important qualities, and this is again not to overwhelm anyone, but some important qualities to keep in mind at this time of year is we want to embrace the color of white. So white foods, white herbs, even white clothing or white surroundings. This is a color because if you get back to this schematic here, everything is distilled down into these 5 distinct categories from the natural environment. The color of white is found in the season of autumn, where we find the color of black in winter, and so on and so forth, green and red. The system is all holistic and interconnected. So the color of white, again, white foods, white herbs, things like grains would be a good choice at this time of year, well-cooked grains, things like quinoa, oats, rice. We also want to look for pungent things. So pungency also can mean spicy, but not always is it pungent spicy, yet spicy is always pungent. We want to look at things that are things like ginger is pungent, although spicy. You can think of the easy one as aromatic spices, like the pumpkin pie spices, like your cinnamons, your cloves, cardamom. Those things have a pungency to them. They're aromatic. This is very important and a very beneficial thing to embrace, or quality in our foods and herbs at this time of year. Now, lesser so, we look for astringent things, slightly sour, slightly bitter, slightly salty. But the two big things are white and pungency. Now, some important considerations for the season of autumn and this time of year is we want to focus paramount on good digestion and elimination. This is extremely important. So not only good digestion, but good elimination. When we talk about the lymphatic system, we don't have time or resources right now to get into the lymphatic system specifically, but I can tell you that the lymphatic system in Ayurveda is dubbed as the most important system in the human body. This is our river system of immunity, right? We need to keep proper care, proper attention focused on the lymphatic system to keep that clear and clean without bogging it down. When we look at our lymphatic system and our immune system, they are one and the same. It is the lymphatic system is one of the main channels in the body. It does get dubbed the drainage system, which it is a drainage system, but so much of that lymphatic drainage system focuses on macrophages and certain components of our immune system that are extremely important for our overall health and wellness. So when we look at good digestion and elimination, we have to keep this in mind, that this is focusing on our lymphatic system. So when we look at studies, you'll hear people say that 80% of our immune system is focused in our intestines. What this is talking about is our not only probiotics, but our lymphatic system in general. So we have 80% of our immune system focused around our digestive system. So for the ripening, fermentation, and rotting of the foods we eat, we need a strong immune buffer to keep us healthy so that we don't get sick from things we're eating, so that we don't absorb pathogens through our digestion and things of that sort, So if we do not have good digestion or good elimination, so good digestion would mean a complete digestion of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, specifically for lymphatic function. This would be good digestion of fats and protein. If we do not have that good digestion, what's going to happen is our body's going to attack that as invaders. It's going to pull it through into our lymphatic system, and our immune system is going to be focused on our digestion, on our poor digestion of fats and proteins, when it should be focusing on pathogens or other areas in the body. We're tying up all those resources on digestion when those immune factor resources need to go in other places of our body to keep other diseases away, whether it be from colds and flus to cellular problems like the big C. We're bogging ourselves down with improper digestion constantly and clogging our drainage system. If you've ever had a toilet backup in your house, you know how important drainage systems can be, right? A clogged toilet that's overfilling can ruin your house. Same thing in your body. We need that proper digestion and elimination. So likewise, even if you had proper digestion in terms of stomach digestion of proteins and fats, if your elimination, your back drainage system, your colon is plugged up, is constipated, we're not eliminating effectively, the immune system is going to have to get resources there to keep this toxic matter from spreading within the body. So our immune system is going to be focused on that area. So we need to take special consideration in terms of digestion and elimination to keep that system draining and going, and again, not to bog down our lymphatic system. Super, super important. So we need to also focus on these easy to digest foods at this time of year, whether that be a well-cooked grain, as in a congee. You can Google that and look that up, what a congee is, or steamed, lightly cooked vegetables, soups, stews, things that are usually easier to digest for the human body. We want to keep in mind, and this might be a little bit more advanced, but balance of both drying and mucus-causing foods, damp-causing foods. This is more on your specific constitution. So if you've ever been to a practitioner and they've told you, oh, you have a dampness problem, you have a dryness problem, we want to maybe focus more on those types of foods. But for the common person, when we want to look at the foods that we eat, is a balance of both drying and damp causing foods. Some examples would be yogurt would be damp causing. A drying food would be things like popped grain, toast, those things that are drying for the body. That's just a quick snippet of balance or of those foods to give ideas on how to balance both of them. It is a little bit more advanced, but again, this is something you can do your own research on and look into more. And again, as I mentioned before, we want to cook with aromatic spices and herbs. That aromatic dispersing quality that we'll find in herbs like ginger or cardamom, for example, they will push the body, they will push their energy out, but they will also assist in digestion. Those carminative herbs, those aromatic herbs, assisting in digestion so that we get this complete digestion, again, of fats and proteins, where we're not bogging down the lymphatic system, we're not bogging down the large intestine, we're having good ease of elimination, good quality of digestion. Now we're going to get back into the lungs, I think, on the next slide here, but that is why the large intestine and lymphatic system are so important at this time of year. Again, when I teach these classes, we always want to call it lung season, so people are thinking lungs, lungs, lungs. We have to stop and look at the paired organ system and realize, hey, this is large intestine season. This is probably a good time to do a colon cleanse, a detox, watch the foods that we eat, want to focus more on easily digestive foods, again, to further enhance our overall body chemistry and functioning. So the lungs and the immune system. Now, when we look at the lungs from the concept of, or from the school or thought of traditional Chinese medicine, we can see that the lungs represent a type of qi in the body, a type of energy in the body. They emanate and push. So basically from the air that we breathe and the food that we eat mixes together to create a type of, different types of qi in the body. But the one specific qi that's related to the lungs and the immune system is this qi called Y qi. So we can think of it as a protective energy in the body, right? It is our concept of our immune system, specifically when we talk about the surfaces of the body. So in our mucous membranes, again, all emanating from the lungs. So how can we easily think about this without getting too bogged down in the minutia of traditional Chinese medicine? This Y qi, this protective energy that comes from the lungs, we can think of it as a protective force field in the body. It's going to protect us. So strong lungs are going to translate into a form of protection that's going to protect us from outside pathogens coming into the body, right? It's going to protect our orifices of the body, our nose, our mouth, our ears, right? Things that we can get, things that are susceptible to outside pathogens. When we have a strong lung energy, we're going to have a better quality of mucous membranes, and that's going to keep us healthier and more protected from, like I say here, everything that is going around. Now, taking that a step further, the Y qi has been a concept in Chinese medicine for 5,000 years. What's interesting to note is that we now know that there's something within the body that's a physical representation of this Y qi, and that is a facet of our lymphatic system called the salt lymphatic system, the SALT, or the skin-associated lymphatic tissue. So when we look at the skin-associated lymphatic tissue and we look at a map throughout the body, which I forgot to put a slide in here of that, but this salt lymphatic system, this SALT, the skin-associated lymphatic tissue system, is actually right below the skin, right below our skin, above our muscles, and it makes like a network of protection that helps protect us, again, from outside pathogens, virus, bacteria, anything that's trying to invade the body. This skin-associated lymphatic tissue is going to protect us. So again, a strong lung health is a strong lymphatic health, right? We keep this Y qi strong. Now, what we find when our lungs are weak, we don't have the qi or the energy to push this Y qi throughout the body in order to fortify and make this skin-associated lymphatic tissue strong and robust. Again, when our lung health is weak, we're more susceptible to everything going around. We live in an era of communicable diseases that we need to keep these orifices and our outside body protected as much as possible. We need to be able to be confident and strong when we walk in a room. If there's illness there, we're not going to get it because we have a strong protective immunity, a strong Y Qi, right? So there's different levels of the immune system. The lungs will have the ability to gather and maintain and strengthen these different areas, but we're talking about something that's a surface level Qi, right? It's different than our deep immune function that includes cellular immunity, but still the lungs will help that as well. It's going to push this Qi to different facets of our immune system. So you always got to look, are your lungs really healthy? If you live anywhere in the modern world or in an industrialized nation, I hate to break it to you, but air pollution is a real problem. It is something that's bogging us down constantly, yet we might live in a beautiful, pristine place. When you look at some of the statistics on air pollution and the levels in our environment, it is unreal. It's astounding on how bad it is. So having taken all this knowledge, this is a quick kind of refresher and a kind of deep, shallow dive into Taoist tonic herbalism, living in harmony with nature. It's all about knowledge, right? It's all about assembling this knowledge together. Why would we want to do that? To give us health sovereignty. This is something I'm very, very passionate about, and it's something I can't recommend enough. What does health sovereignty mean? It means that we're taking what we've learned and healing ourselves. I have a true, firm belief that healing comes from within. It's true we can see herbalists and practitioners, doctors, all these people help guide us and give us tools and resources. But if you read any sort of miraculous success stories, done any sort of research in healing the body over time, there's usually a shift internally with someone that they're like, hey, I want to get healthy. I want to make this change around. And that all comes from within. So this health sovereignty, taking our health back into our own hands, right? One of the colloquial phrases I like to use is ditch medicine, right? Like I love the ability that I can go out into my local environment, look in the ditch, find medicine, make it for myself and my family. That can a lot of times be much more effective and safe than a lot of the conventional therapies out there. So we need to take health back in our own hands. We do this through knowledge, and that creates our health sovereignty. Now, again, why is this so important? We really, really now more than ever in centuries past need protective strategies that harmonize the foods we eat, the herbs that we take, the activities that we do to help us thrive, not only thrive, but survive in the present day world. Extremely important now more than ever to embrace this new paradigm. Now, a little bit of a side note and is that this new paradigm is actually an old paradigm, this ethnobotany paradigm, right? How our ancestors have lived healthfully for thousands of years without a lot of the modern day problems that we have. So my opinion, we need to start looking back on how these cultures have survived so healthfully and so well, and embrace that as a new paradigm for us and our planet. Now, at the core of all this, getting to the meat of the potato for today's talk, is medicinal mushrooms. When we look at tonic herbalism, right, that's that effective Taoist tonic herbalism is how we live in harmony with nature, taking little bits of substances ongoing to avoid big problems later. Medicinal mushrooms are at the core of this tonic herbalism. Now, when we talk about the fungi kingdom in general, they are literally food for the immune system. So medicinal mushrooms, even though they can fight for us, there is chemistry in there that will fight for us. The majority of how they work or the biggest activity on how medicinal mushrooms work is they make your body work better. They're providing food for your immune system going forward. They make your body systems work better, right? These long chain sugar molecules hit the digestive tract that code systems in the body to react to that. So we can think of medicinal mushrooms as a prehistoric software program, right? We're eating these medicinal mushrooms and we're getting their benefits. Now, I did want to include on this slide here that we actually share about 67% of our DNA with medicinal mushrooms. So when I'm talking about food for the immune system, we're actually, since we share so much DNA with medicinal mushrooms, we can actually take their immune systems that have been evolving for millions and millions of years. over a wide variety of pathogens, bacterias, invaders, and they've evolved this immune system. Now, because we share so much DNA, we can consume medicinal mushrooms and actually biohack our system by piggybacking on their immune system and using immune system and components within and using it as our own. So we're feeding our immune system by consuming medicinal mushrooms. Now, there's an estimated 1.5 million fungal species worldwide, with more than 700 so far have been shown to produce and possess significant medicinal activity. Now, this is amazing. Now, we've only scratched the surface. And when it comes down to it, even of these 700 species, we're only really utilizing as human beings about 200 for food and medicine. So it is important to start expanding our use and knowledge of medicinal mushrooms, but specifically, when we look at the medicinal mushrooms that are around and available to us, there's only about 2 dozen that we really need to focus on and start incorporating more of those within our diet and body. Now, why do we want to do this? Because it is estimated that there is over 130 different medicinal functions attributed to medicinal mushrooms. So out of these 700 species, we found over 130 different medicinal functions. Now, huge spoiler alert is that a lot of these activities overlap with one another. So we find this medicinal mushroom does function A, this medicinal mushroom does function A as well. Using them in conjunction, both science and tradition state, that using them together in synergy, we get even enhanced benefit for that function A. So we find that the fungi kingdom and medicinal mushrooms are truly our greatest ally for the modern era. It's one of the things that I always say, that if you're not on shrooms right now, you should be, because when we look at the wide variety of that 130 different medicinal functions, we find some amazing medicinal activity. Things like antibacterial, antiviral, antitumoral, antimutagenic, anti-diabetic, anti-radiation, anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, immunomodulating. So this means adjusting the immune system up or down. And like I said before, 130 different activities. So that list goes on and on and on. Now, when we look at the medicinal mushrooms for the fall, or the time of fall, because if you turn back to, and I'll flip back to this right here, how this comprehensive template, like it's breaking up everything in the natural environment in these 5 distinct categories. Well, herbs are in these 5 distinct categories as well. Now, there will be bleed over or blending from each season to the next for medicinal mushrooms and for tonic herbs and even for medicinal herbs. But everything is broken down into those distinct categories. So there is medicinal mushrooms that are most important at this time of year. Those would include, but not limited to, and there's a variety of reasons why, that would include things like turkey tail, cordyceps, reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom, lion's mane mushroom, or poria mushroom. Now, here's a picture of turkey tail mushroom. We do have turkey tails that grow locally here, but they're a little fan-like mushroom, a little shelf-type mushroom. We find other crazier-looking mushrooms like cordyceps. This is specifically scarlet cordyceps. This is a now cultivated type of cordyceps. Cordyceps originally grows on dead caterpillars or insects. We know how to cultivate it and utilize it as well. So these are the first 2 medicinal mushrooms that I want to talk about here. So turkey tail mushroom. Out of all medicinal mushrooms, there's going to be immune benefit, right? Because they are food for the immune system. But in my opinion, turkey tail is the immune mushroom. When you look at the activity of use with turkey tail, it's just amazing. We find actually there's over 400 scientific research studies documenting the effectiveness of turkey tail. It has a wide spectrum of polysaccharides that are going to help boost and build your immune system. Now, when we look at turkey tail as a medicinal mushroom, we find that it focuses on what I like to say the triad of health, which is your liver, your spleen, and your lungs. So turkey tail is a lesser known lung medicinal mushroom. So you'll find turkey tail used in things like cancer therapy, things like liver cancer, breast cancer. You'll find it in liver inflammation. So it does get a lot of accolades for its liver healing and liver boosting properties. But it also is a qi and jing building herb, if you're familiar with those terms in Taoist tonic herbalism. Also to note that a qi building herb will always help the lungs, right? So we find that turkey tail is actually a really powerful lung health mushroom and immune mushroom. We find things like turkey tail used in conjunction with shiitake mushroom in one study was shown to increase your natural killer cells activity by a factor of 5 in 2 months of usage. So that's that consistent usage. We're getting it, is that like a 400% increase in 2 months of usage. So I don't know about you, but this is something that I would like to include in my diet. We find, again, like I said before, it's used in a wide variety of uses, things like liver cancer, breast cancer. It is one of the main medicinal mushrooms been studied for its effectiveness, used in conjunction along with or after radiation or chemotherapy procedures. We find that it increases circulation, clears heat and damp, good for lesser known issues, such as, not that UTIs are lesser known issues, but people, when they get UTIs, we're constantly thinking of cranberry or these other herbs, D-mannose, another supplement. But we can actually use turkey tail, very effective for UTI, urinary tract infections. We find that it is astounding for the inhibition of prostate cancer cells. But overall, this is an immune mushroom. And I like to tell people, turkey tail is another medicinal mushroom that we can take, like I said, in terms of radiation or chemotherapy to help protect our healthy cells. So if it can protect our healthy cells undergoing treatments such as this, think about what it's doing for you daily, right? On the daily, what is it doing for you? Extremely important medicinal mushroom, extremely important immune mushroom, strong lung supportive mushroom. Another mushroom, which I guess I don't have a picture here, but you saw it here, scarlet cordyceps. So it's a club mushroom, as I said before, grows off dead insects. It is best known as the best lung medicinal mushroom in all of Chinese medicine. So when people think, number one, about the lungs, we think cordyceps for the lungs. Now, this is true that cordyceps is an amazing lung tonic, but not to understate the effectiveness of turkey tail, even though cordyceps is best known for its lung helping ability. Turkey tail is this massive immune mushroom and lung mushroom. Now, cordyceps is an immune mushroom as well. It is a lung tonic as well, and it is the most well-known. So using these two in combination is a really effective strategy when you're looking at medicinal mushrooms for the fall. So it is traditionally known, like I said, as a lung tonic, working to heal the lungs. It's increasing absorption of oxygen and dilating the small capillaries throughout the body. So if you deal with anything related to circulation issues in the body or lymphatic issues, it's going to help with that. So specifically, cordyceps is also known to help with the mesenteric lymphatic system, which are intestinal-based lymphatic nodes. So consuming cordyceps is going to help with the lymphatic system on our intestines, as well as the circulation throughout the body. So it's also great for the adrenal glands. It is a great medicinal mushroom to take fall and winter, because the winter is the season of the kidneys or adrenal system. So we want to start combining these as a kind of a 1-2 punch for fall and winter. We find that cordyceps also increases T cells, natural killer cells, boosts the flow and activity, like I said, of this mesenteric lymphatic system. We find it's anti-fatigues, not stimulating, but it does help with energy, is liver protective, good for inflammation, and immunomodulating as all medicinal mushrooms. So we'll find an element of upregulation and downregulation with medicinal mushrooms. So can be used in a lot of cases of autoimmune, where usually people are worried about spiking their immune system and causing too much of an aggressive reaction. Medicinal mushrooms make your body systems work better, as I mentioned before. So it's going to help soothe out that immune system so that your autoimmune reaction is not going to be so intense and so great. Speaking of autoimmune, one of the classic medicinal mushrooms to take for that regulation of the immune system is reishi mushroom. Here's a picture here. Here is a picture of chaga medicinal mushroom. This is a sclerotium. So this is actually hardened mycelium of the chaga mushroom. It's an external mass that grows on trees. We call it a mushroom. It's technically called sclerotium. Now, reishi mushroom is probably my favorite of all medicinal mushrooms. It's one that I pretty much don't go a day without. And like I said before, it's amazing at modulating that immune system up or down. It again is a lung tonic while also being a liver tonic, a kidney tonic, and a heart tonic. Also helps the spleen. So reishi is really that, what I like to say, that D, all of the above medicinal mushroom, meaning you can take reishi mushroom without fail in any time of the year, any season, and you're going to get some benefit. But that a massive ability to regulate the immune system is one of the claims of reishi mushroom and one of the fames of reishi mushroom. Now, it grows throughout the world, primarily on hardwood trees, where we do not have this Chinese species that grows in Alberta. We have some cousin species that will grow on the East Coast and West Coast, but we do have a local Ganoderma applanatum, which is known as the ancient reishi, which is amazingly effective, which was found to be 100% effective at tumor inhibition in petri dishes in a lab. So this isn't necessarily a real world case in the human body, but still an outstanding immune effectiveness when it comes to Ganoderma species in general. One of the best things that I like to recommend reishi mushrooms for and use it for myself is its anti-stress function. It's really bringing you out of your head with those thoughts going on and bringing you back down into your body and like they say, into your heart, right? It's getting you out of that monkey mind. This is so important to get that stress to release, to ground, to stop in our mind when we're going into an immune system season, because the more stress that we have, the more it's going to affect our body, right? We need to release that stress. We need to be grounded. We need to be focused. If we're always, tripping out, running around, monkey mind going, stressed out, it's going to affect our immune system. And that is not what we want in today's day and age. Because again, that immune system has layers. It's not just cold and flu season, protective immunity on the outside. It's also that deep immune system within, that cellular immunity to avoid those bigger immune issues like the big C, okay? So we find that this anti-stress nerve tonic effect of reishi mushroom is the best. We find that it can harmonize brain waves a few hours after ingestion. And I can't state on how profound and how amazing this can be for some people to really adjust their perspective in life, right? We need to keep that stress at bay moving forward. Now, we also find from a physiological standpoint that it's, like I said before, liver protective, kidney protective, spleen protective, again, a lung tonic in itself. We even find that it can help in cases of cerebral, so brain inflammation. Reishi mushroom has tumor-preventing compounds, can help to inhibit the growth of tumor cells in the lungs, cervix, prostate, and liver. We find it useful in any area of blood diseases, let's say, so water element things, which would include things like diabetes or cholesterol. But again, this respiratory condition, along with the increased NK cells and that anti-stress nerve tonic effect of reishi mushroom, is the best, which is one reason why it's one of my, like I say, non-negotiables, something that I like to consume daily ongoing. It doesn't mean I won't take a break sometimes from reishi mushroom, but it is one that I heavily rely upon just to keep my mind right and keep me focused going forward, keeping my immune system strong. So chaga mushroom is another medicinal mushroom. Like I said before, we call it a mushroom, but it's actually a sclerotium. Now, chaga is, again, a very strong immune protective medicinal mushroom. Now, there is areas and incidences of it being used, and I just want to see if I have it here, but in areas of lung diseases, areas of the lungs, treat cancers of the stomach, lungs, breast, and cervix, uterine, gastric, liver, kind of the list goes on. We find that chaga is really beneficial in terms of its antioxidant potential. So something it has is called superoxide dismutase, which is the most powerful antioxidant within the human body. Now, even though it does carry it itself, it's also known to enhance this function of superoxide dismutase and glutathione in the body to help our body fight off toxic agents or super radical oxygen molecules. It has been known for thousands of years and studied worldwide for its health enhancing benefits as well. Chaga tea is something really beneficial to take in the fall because you can make some chaga tea. It's warm, slightly pungent, mixes well with a wide variety of different herbs or sweeteners like maple syrup. And we can consume chaga to kind of keep the body tuned up in terms of antioxidant potential, but also the high potassium and mineral content of chaga mushroom can also help to keep our elimination channels open and going, right? Our electrolyte system up so that we're eliminating this dampness. We're not holding on to things. We're going to be letting go. So if you're, as a side note, not used to chaga tea, you might want to take it slow at first because this high amount of potassium and minerals in general can cause flushing of the intestines. Again, I have never noticed this personally, but I know a few people that this has happened to. It's this high mineral content flushes the body out. So slow and steady, but once your body gets more robust to that mineral level, that mineral load, we can consume chaga tea, 1 to 2 cups per day or every other day, just to keep our body tuned up with these antioxidants in general. We also find, again, like most medicinal mushrooms, it's got this immune modulating effect. So this overlay of immune benefits with these natural killer cells. And again, this overall, where was it here? Immunomodulating effect, this overall activity when it comes to our immune system in terms of, there we go, anti-mutagen, so our deep cell immunity. Chaga is really good not only for the protective lung capacity of our colds and flus or invading pathogens that are going around, but has a specific affinity for these deep cell immunity problems, right? These deep cell immunity problems. If there's anything in nature that would look like a tumor, like I always like to say, it would be chaga mushroom. So there's a good thing to keep in your back pocket. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You might want to rely on chaga mushroom if you're facing any of those issues. We find that it also has a specific antiviral activity, antibacterial activity, and very liver protective and restorative. Again, very important in the fall and winter to keep our system flushed, our elimination up, and that also does relate to the liver health in general, to keep our liver clear, eliminating properly as it should be. So chaga mushroom, another powerful medicinal mushroom for the fall. Now, the last 2 medicinal mushrooms that I want to talk about are lesser known for the lung system, lesser known for the season of fall, but I wanted to talk about them to give them a little bit of fame here in terms of their activity and how beneficial they can be for the fall. So we look at lion's mane medicinal mushroom and poria, also known as pariah coccus. Poria or poria coccus mushroom, pariah mushroom. So we find lion's mane mushroom is best known for its neurological effects, right? Going back to what I said about chaga, how it looks like a tumor. That's called the doctrine of signature. When we look at the lion's mane doctrine of signature, it looks like a bunch of little tubes, right? It looks like a brain in a way, especially when you do a cross section and slice it open. It definitely looks like a brain inside. So it's best known for the nervous system, the brain, the neurons in the body, like rebuilding. So it's got this nerve growth factor. But one thing I like to stress is that the lungs are also tubes. The cardiovascular system is also tubes in the body. The digestive system is also tubes in the body. So lion's mane can help heal any sort of tube in the body. Now, being white, right, the color of white for the lung season of fall, being the color of white, it's going to have this specific affinity for the lung system, lungs, large intestine system at this time of year. Again, healing all these tubes in the body. So yes, we're going to get that immunomodulating effect, this immune boosting effect, but there's a specific affinity, like I said, to heal these tubes in the body. So I think of our bronchioles, right? Our fine capillaries. Those are all tubes that maybe don't get a lot of attention when it comes to overall lung health or immune health. But this is a lesser known lung tonic that can be used very effectively at this time of year. Again, lungs, large intestine, helping that digestive, healing those tubes. We'll actually find it used a lot in traditional Chinese medicine in the past, thousands of years ago, for digestive systems in general. It's more of the new research, the new discovery of lion's mane, how it's activating this nerve growth factor, helping the brain and nervous system, right? So we can use the modern discovery of benefits of lion's mane and combined it in conjunction with our old world ideas, our ancient philosophies and knowledge about lion's mane mushroom, and use it together if we're facing any of those types of issues. So we see that lion's mane has an antibiotic function, anti-carcinogenic function, anti-diabetic, anti-fatigue, anti-hypertensive, anti-hyperlipidemic, anti-sentient, cardioprotective, hepatoprotective, nephroprotective, kind of goes on and on for how it's protective and healing these tubes in the body. Really good again for the mind, improving anxiety or helping calm the mind. Really good for inflammation, especially of any of those tubes in the body. And like I said before, immunomodulating. So don't sleep on lion's mane in terms of its lung capacity health or how it helps the lungs, because it can be a powerful ally at this time of year. Now, the last medicinal mushroom I want to talk about for today's talk here is Poria mushroom. So Poria mushroom, one of the definitely lesser known medicinal mushrooms out there. Most people aren't too familiar with Poria mushroom. It's usually hard to find it by itself in North America. But as some background or as a side note, it is actually the most used medicinal mushroom in traditional Chinese medicine. Now, most people, this blows them away because we're thinking, oh, it must be reishi mushroom, must be cordyceps. Poria is the most used medicinal mushroom in Eastern herbology. It actually acts as a harmonizing agent when added to formulas. So you'll see it show up in many, many Chinese formulas. I think I came across a statistic one time that it's used in somewhere up to 80% of Chinese formulas. You'll find Poria mushroom, again, because of its harmonizing activity. So when using Poria mushroom along with other medicinal mushrooms or herbs, it's going to act to harmonize those between them, right? Increase their effectiveness, increase their function. We find that it's got roots in Chinese herbalism dating back to the mid-900s, where it's known to be an effective diuretic that excretes dampness. Now, how it relates to lung health, besides being white, is this excretion of dampness. That's one. We're going to get this dampness out of the body so we don't have congested lungs, right? This congested respiratory system. We need that clear, right? We don't need our lymphatic system bogged down. We want to keep those fluids draining through the kidney system out of the body. So we can take Poria mushroom fall and winter to help our system from backing up, right? Help our elimination channels from backing up so we're not boggy-woggy, right? We need to start excreting this dampness and getting that out. Also, it's good for the spleen and stomach, so it's invigorating digestion, which is very important. So even though you might not be aware you have a stomach or spleen issue, usually in today's day and age, from poor diet, pollution, overthinking, toxicity in our environment, a lot of us are going to have spleen and stomach issues in terms of our effectiveness and our completion of digestion, as I mentioned before at the beginning. Also, the second point for the lungs and immune system specifically at this time of year is how Poria has this tranquilizing effect on the mind, right? Just like reishi mushroom, when we keep our body de-stressed, we keep our mind de-stressed, right? We're not absorbing that stress. We're not feeling that stress. We're tranquil. We're chill, man, right? We're just floating through life. Nothing's affecting us. That is going to benefit our immune system. We're going to have such a strong immune system. When we start internalizing this stress, it is going to wear our system down and cause a weak immune system. So any of these herbs like reishi and Poria, which have been used as a classic combination in traditional Chinese medicine to tranquilize the mind, it's going to help that mind strengthen our immune system, strengthen our lungs, spleen, stomach, and clear up any febrile illnesses or help us protect us from further invading pathogens. Now, we also see some other benefits of Poria specifically, like how it works with autoimmune conditions. Like all medicinal mushrooms, Poria is more well studied for autoimmune conditions, such as reishi as well. We're going to see that it is activating the innate immune system, so it helps our macrophages, our lymphocytes, our natural killer cells, increasing their immune activity in the body. We see that the polysaccharides in studies given to mice increase their cellular and humoral immunity to things like H1N1 influenza virus. So flu viruses in general, Poria is a good thing to have in the body. We also see some other stimulating immunological functions like tumor inhibition, again, that deep cellular immunity, right? But when we're going into lung season, aka cold and flu season, we want to have that protective immunity strong, right? That's kind of our number one paramount at this time, and build these organ systems so that they can help our overall immune system for the 12 months ahead, right? Building that lungs, large intestine system, lymphatic system right now so that we can avoid problems later for the next 12 months, right? And the cycle continues. Every season we're focusing on a different organ system. We're building that up. We're getting it ready for the next 12 months ahead because let's get it, right? We want to be strong. We want to be healthy. So if this is overwhelming to you, all these medicinal mushrooms, which ones to take, I always recommend people go first to a blend. We happen to make 2 mushroom blends. You can find many out there. We have a 5 mushroom blend and a 16 mushroom blend. This kind of hits all your bases. Liver Life is our 5 mushroom blend. Even though we market it as liver health, which it does help, I like to think of it as also our specific immune blend. So if we look at it has turkey tail, reishi, Poriococcus. Another specific immune building mushroom is mesema this time of year. Good for the large intestine, good for phase 3 detoxification, really good for enhancing that lower elimination of the body. But when we take 5 mushrooms, not that 16 mushrooms are bad, because this is also amazing to get all these in, we're getting a higher percentage of these mushrooms within this 5 mushroom blend. So we're getting more of the turkey tail, reishi, mesema, Poriococcus. Really good for this time of year, right? If you combine this with some cordyceps on top of it, that is a pretty winning strategy in terms of overall health and wellness for the lung season, the fall season. Now we can just take mega mushroom or the 16 mushroom blend. We will get them all in there. You can definitely do that. Depends what works best for you, your lifestyle, because we will get the addition of chaga and lion's mane as well in here. So you just do what works for you, or like I tell people, start on one, go through a bag, rotate to the next, and go back and forth. That seems to be a winning strategy for most people. Now, how do we use these medicinal mushrooms going forward? How do we use them? What are some ideas and some examples that we can look to and how we can get these into our diet? So one of the best ways is through the daily elixir, we like to call it. So what is an elixir? It is a sweetened medicinal drink that's easily consumable, right? It's a vehicle for how we deliver medicines in the body, right? These tonic herbs. So these can be simple and easy, just like this simple mushroom hot chocolate. Here is a recipe you can take down, try it at home. We can put some optional add-ons in there, or substitutions, so we can add in some hoshiwu, we can add in some astragalus, we can add in other herbs or medicinal mushrooms that will help benefit our immune system at this time of year. So really sky's the limit, but this is the base for that. This is usually palatable by people of all ages, including kids. We would just want to cut dosage down a little bit, but guess and test. Now, the nice thing about medicinal mushrooms, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, is medicinal mushrooms, like I said, are food for the immune system. Food for the immune system. But there's really no upper limit because they are foods, meaning they're very, very safe to consume, especially over long periods of time. So we want to treat these as foods. So there's no real dosage because these are not medicinal herbs from a medicinal herb standpoint. They're medicinal mushrooms. They're a tonic food, right? So we want to incorporate these into our diet as if they were food, right? We want to look at our diet. How long have we been, or how over the last 2 weeks or a month, how many times, have we been consuming medicinal mushrooms, getting those foods into our diet? And certain things like this simple mushroom hot chocolate can be an excellent way. Here's another recipe. This is what I like to call the giddy up and go cappuccino. We're using a coffee substitute in this one, Dandy Blend. We're mixing medicinal mushrooms in there. Again, feel free to experiment with different herbs that you see fit, making this into a tasty coffee-like beverage that you can take with you on the go any time of day, morning, noon, or night. You can consume something like this to get your medicinal mushrooms in. Another quick and easy one is a chaga chocolate milk. This is relying on store-bought chocolate or vanilla almond milk. This is the easiest one out there. You can heat it up. You can heat it up, warm it up, add your medicinal mushrooms in there, blend it up. You're good to go. You can add a little bit of extra sweetener or whatever you want in there. A little bit of pinch of salt I find is always good in elixir because it helps bind flavors together, helps the activity of it. So this is another really easy one that you can incorporate. Now, beyond the elixir, and I'm sure there's many resources out there for elixirs, but beyond elixirs, we can incorporate medicinal mushrooms in other areas of our lives, into our diet and into our life. So anywhere you see fit that I could add this in there, that's probably a good thing to do, or a good area to try and see if you can incorporate those mushrooms in. So one kind of off the cuff idea is cookies, right? Medicinal mushroom constituents can withstand up to about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So we can add them to cookie recipes or other baked goods. We can add them to homemade chocolates. We can put them in soups, stews, slow cooked meals, those types of things. The only thing I would caveat against or warn against would be high heat frying. You're going to get over 400 Fahrenheit with frying, but any other area like sauces, like dips. I'm going to, on our newsletter, have a recipe for kale chips with medicinal mushrooms in it. Really, sky's the limit. Again, where you think you can add them in, try to incorporate it there. One of the kids' favorites and our household favorites is the medicinal mushroom popcorn that I make, which has kind of become an infamous recipe. But you're literally popping corn, doing up some popcorn and sprinkling medicinal mushrooms on top. Specifically, our Liver Life 5 mushroom blend goes amazing with popcorn. You're salting that popcorn just like you would, but this is like an added spice blend, right, for that popcorn, really enhancing its flavor, but giving it the popcorn that immune enhancing edge, right? You're incorporating these in any area of your life. One thing I forgot to put on here was porridge, oatmeal, really easy to stir in and keep that kind of ongoing as your daily breakfast. You can put some medicinal mushrooms in your oatmeal. But anyway, sky's the limit is my point with that. So I just wanted to thank everybody for keeping tuned in for this talk, this presentation. This is, again, a small snippet of things we can do for the fall in terms of helping our lungs, large intestine, and lymphatic system to build your overall immunity and how we can embrace medicinal mushrooms going forward throughout the year. So thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time.